Lesson 2.1, Digestion, from the mouth to the bloodstream. The goals of this lesson are to give students an overview of digestion and absorption of the macronutrients, and to have students think of problems that may arise when digestion or absorption fails. At the end of this lesson, students should be able to describe the mechanical and chemical breakdown of food, and to describe the digestion and absorption of macronutrients. We'll achieve these goals by having a lecture and a Socratic discussion. To prepare for this lesson, you will need to review the key scientific concepts that will be presented throughout the lesson. They include the anatomy of the gastrointestinal or GI tract from the mouth to the anus, digestion and absorption of the macronutrients, common diseases and disorders of the GI tract, including ulcers, gallstones, celiac, appendicitis, and lactose intolerance. You can review the scientific content in the background reading provided for you in the teacher primer, the teacher manual, and the student workbook. The teacher primer provides in-depth knowledge about the scientific content presented in this lesson. The teacher manual, or lesson plan, provides a minute-by-minute explanation of the lesson structure, including instructions on how to manage the discussion and activity. The student workbook provides additional explanations for students. You will need to print one student note worksheet per student and one homework worksheet per student. Before teaching this lesson, your students should have completed the pre-lesson 2.1 homework, assigned as homework for lesson 1.5. This homework was intended to be used as a formative assessment to help you plan for today's lesson. Note that even if students remembered the anatomy and basic function of the digestive system, the content about diseases and disorders of the GI tract may be new to them. The key point of the lesson's do now is to gauge students' memory of the digestive system. We'll get there by asking students to label the organs of the digestive system on their worksheet. The do now is a simple formative assessment that may help you determine how long to spend on this lesson's content. The key points of this lesson's discussion are the anatomy and basic physiology of the digestive system. When the digestive system isn't functioning normally, different diseases or disorders can occur. Carbohydrates and proteins are each digested into smaller monomer forms before they are absorbed. And lipids must be packaged into special transporters before they can be absorbed. We'll get there by having students listen to a lecture and participate in a Socratic discussion while taking notes on the worksheet. In this discussion, we walk through the digestive system, talking about the anatomy and important function of each of the organs. There is a video that introduces the digestive tract on slide 5. Caution, be sure to check that the video plays before heading into class. If it doesn't play, a link to the video on YouTube can be found in the notes section of the PowerPoint slide. This can become a rather lengthy lesson, so some teachers spend several days on it. You may decide to do so depending on the level of your students. If your students have already learned about the digestive system in a previous course, you may opt to have students guide this discussion, rather than using it as a lecture to the class. Besides digestion, this lesson also covers the absorption of carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. It is important that students understand these concepts before moving on. Students should use the worksheet to sketch the key steps in digestion and absorption of the macronutrients. You can review the scientific concepts in the teacher primer and teacher's manual. The teacher's manual also has tips and discussion prompts to use in your classroom. The key points of this lesson's wrap-up are: energy homeostasis refers to having a constant, stable source of energy available for all the cells in the body, and many organs are needed to maintain energy homeostasis. We get there by introducing students to a model of energy homeostasis that will be used throughout the rest of the unit. You will use this model to introduce the other organs involved in energy homeostasis. This prepares students for the following lessons. The key point of this lesson's homework is to summarize the key points from today's lesson. We'll get there by using a worksheet. Students will complete and correct their original answers to the pre-lesson 2.1 homework that they should have been assigned in lesson 1.5. This lesson begins to address some common disorders of the digestive system. In the past, students have asked about the difference between celiac disease and gluten sensitivity. Celiac is a disease that is diagnosed by taking a biopsy of the large intestine and looking for flattening of the villi. Celiac has an established cause. It is an autoimmune disorder where the body's own immune system attacks the villi in the intestines when exposed to the gluten protein. Gluten sensitivity does not have a straightforward diagnosis. Little is known about why some people are sensitive to gluten. You can learn more about celiac disease in the teacher primer. Lipid digestion and absorption can be a point of confusion in this lesson, and students may ask why lipids don't follow the same pattern of absorption as carbohydrates and proteins. The reasons for this are twofold. First, because lipids are hydrophobic, they stick together in large droplets in the intestine and must be broken down using bile into smaller droplets called micelles. Their hydrophobic property also causes lipids to require transporters in the blood. Second, because of these transporters, lipids are too bulky to enter into the capillary system of the intestines. This is why they are actually first absorbed into the lymphatic system, then join the bloodstream later. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to describe mechanical and chemical breakdown of food and describe the digestion and absorption of macronutrients. In the remaining lessons of Unit 2, students will build upon content presented in this lesson by exploring what happens to the macronutrients after they are absorbed. It is also important that students understand the digestion and absorption of macronutrients for the module's final project. Don't forget that if you have any questions or concerns or feedback, let us know. You can contact any of the CTSE team members and we will be happy to help you.